Hello everybody, my name is V the Victim, and today I'm here to give you a quick overview of my favorite iron ore power mining routes in New World. This is recorded in the beta, and hopefully will be relevant up through the real release of the game, given that I don't think iron spawns are one of the things that they're looking to change with all the bug fixes they have to do and everything else. A couple quick notes before we get started. Iron ore spawns are static, so anywhere you find an iron ore out in the world, that iron ore will respawn in that exact same spot without any variation. The same is true for every single ore, and I believe every single node of every kind. So if you are looking to farm and you know the location of something you want to farm, you can go back to that same spot and find it there again. In this video, I'm going to go over my favorite 4 routes, and I'm going to do them in order from my most to least favorite out of the 4. That's going to be based pretty much entirely on the yield, like how many ores I can get per hour, and how contested they are, like how many players will keep me from getting that optimal ore per hour. One more quick note, I'm going to put some timestamps in the description for each location, so if you're not interested in any little additional extra commentary or tips, feel free to just go down there and skip straight to the map and the route that I have listed down. Let's get started. My favorite spot to mine iron ore is the area in southwest Windsward and northeast First Light. I think the only real downside of this one is that a lot of low-level players kind of are running up through the zones as they level, so you'll run into a fair few just kind of randomly mining 1 or 2 of the nodes you want here and there. However, I think in general, it's quite a good spot, and you don't actually get contested nearly as often as you do in Everfall. All you really need to do to get started on this route is run south out of Windsward. You can go counterclockwise or clockwise. I prefer counter because you kind of avoid this little newbie questing area with the wolves. It does have nodes, but I find that they tend to be kind of mined out because a lot of low levels are in here, skinning or killing the wolves for the quest. So it's better to just avoid that area in my experience and keep your iron income as high as you possibly can for the amount of time you're putting in. Another nice thing about this route is there's a fast travel shrine that you run straight over. So if for some reason you want to fast travel away from the route, even though it'll be expensive because you're weighed down a lot, or you want to start your route halfway through maybe to cut off someone else who's farming and go either direction, it works really nicely. Also, you don't need to set down a camp for this route. One of the Everfall ones you really do, because there's not really a good way to get back to the city without doubling back on yourself and wasting a lot of time. Here, you end up on top of a really tall rock that I'll show in a second, and you can just kill your character. You just take a little bit of durability damage, and that's really the only penalty. And you also have the option to not wear any armor because you're planning to do that. And you get to teleport straight back to Windsward. And at that point, you're able to just, smelt your ore, put it on the auction house, store it in your thing or whatever. And if you need more, you can go right back out the south gate and get going again. My second favorite iron ore location is in East Everfall. It's not quite as good as Windsward. It's quite a good one. If you're uncontested, you can even get upwards of 6,000 iron ore an hour. The main issues with it are just that you usually are contested and that you have to build a camp for this run to be very effective. So first off, you're usually contested. You'll see a lot of people here. I think a lot of people have realized this is one of the best places to farm iron, at least uncontested, and as a result, they're farming iron. Contested, your yield probably drops from 5.5 to 6k to about, I'd say 3 to 4k. It's a pretty big drop. It's very noticeable, and if it's peak hours or something, you're lucky to get maybe 2,000 or 3,000 iron ore in a whole hour, which probably still sounds pretty good, but you can do better, as you'll see throughout this guide. The other issue is the camp. Basically, you're going to want to reset with death in this run, just like a lot of the other runs, because you're not going to want to double back on your route where there's no iron ore that you just mine and waste a lot of time. The problem with that is you're a lot closer at the end of this route to Weaver's Fen than you are to the city in Everfall. So the only way you can die efficiently and res back inside Everfall is to put down a camp right outside. And that's what we're going to use that for, is just to respawn after this, to run into the city, bank our ore, sell it, whatever we're going to do, and then get back out there if we need more. The third best spot, in my opinion, to farm iron ore is West Everfall. With this one, you go north out of the Everfall gate and then pretty much take a hard west and run along all these cliffs and stuff that you get west and northwest of the city. The biggest drawback of this one is just the density of nodes is a lot lower than in the first 2 that I listed, but I do find that it's very, very rarely contested like the other two are, especially East Everfall. There are also two more big reasons I do like this one. The first is that you can get a lot of silver ore. Up at the mine in the very north part of the route, you'll find, especially if you can track it on your map, that there are a ton of silver ore nodes. So if you're looking for either mining experience to level up, or you just want silver for jewel crafting or smelting or whatever, it's a great place to get some, and it's right along the way of the route. So just a ton of free silver ore right along the way if you choose to grab it. Now, if you're just after iron and silver ore is super cheap like it is on my server, not quite as good as the first two places I listed. The other big selling point is that you don't need to make a camp. You don't need to remember to or anything. Even all the way up in the northwest corner of Everfall, you're still far enough away from the Brightwood city that your death puts you back in Everfall. So you can just do a nice normal respawn and you don't need to worry about a camp or like if it runs out or whatever and leaving you stranded. No problem. Also, there is a fast travel shrine up there, but again, not really much reason to use it. I guess you could start the route there and then bring your way back down into Everfall. Could be pretty nice, but I just don't see the reason to use the Azoth most of the time. My fourth and final route for this video is in Monarch's Bluffs. This is a really solid, quick, easy route. It just suffers from not having quite as many nodes as the other ones, and as a result having a much lower ceiling for how much you can get uncontested in an hour. So if you like to farm at off hours, maybe you work a weird shift at work, or you wake up before work and play a little bit to farm, you're definitely going to find that the other ones are better. This one really, the selling points for it are two things. One, it's a perfect loop. You really don't gain efficiency by taking weird detours or anything. You can just run straight out of the city and straight back in when you're done, or even just straight back into the route if you have enough room to keep getting more ore. The other thing is that this route is really short. Now, that's sort of a bad thing because, again, it doesn't have that many nodes in it. But it's a good thing in the sense that if you only have 10, 12 minutes, you can knock this entire route out. I can do 5 of these runs in an hour easily, sometimes 6, even if there are a lot of nodes along the way. And I'm getting probably 800 to 900 ore per run. So it's a really, really solid quick run that you can do. It's a loop. It doesn't require you to die. So if you want to wear your gear because you're PvP flagged or something, you can. And definitely a really solid option to close out the video. On that note, if you stuck around this long, thank you very much for watching. Also, if you're one of my older viewers from RuneScape or WoW, I've just been playing New World. It's been a lot of fun during the beta, and I'm looking forward to full release. So if you're curious, maybe you should check it out too.